Hey guys, this is Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist. You can find me at attachmenthealinghelp.com. I do ideal parent figure meditation, some parts work. But this is going to be more about how we think. And this is kind of the second part based on a book called, Things Will Probably Go Horribly Wrong. And because people with attachment problems often have problems with rumination, problems with obsessive thoughts, and they tend to project things negatively. That makes it very difficult for relationships. The first 2 years of marriage, for example, are oftentimes the hardest. People tell me, boy, if my marriage was like those first 2 years, I wouldn't have done it. The people who make it in the first 2 years are those newlyweds who make an effort to put a positive spin on things. When their partner speaks, they always pick the most generous interpretation of what they're saying. I don't mean, threats or abuse, nothing like that. But, if someone, what your partner kind of just says something a little dismissive, doesn't pay attention, forgets something, and they'll say things like, oh, well, they didn't mean that. Or, well, they've been really stressful. And they just realize that these little kind of disruptions in the relationship aren't worth getting into. And so they kind of just give this positive spin. That's hard to do when you're constantly experiencing this negative rumination. And I can tell you, most attachment problems are deeply rooted in problems of maintaining contact with the present moment. Very hard to attune to someone, because if you're more on the depressed side, you're looking in the past, you're regretting. If you're more on the anxious side, you're living in the future. But right here is where you attune. Right here in the body is where life is. That's also where anxiety lives and uncertainty, but that's also where life lives. So the big things that rock relationships, people handle them. It's actually the less dramatic breakdowns in the present moment that are central to this kind of anxiety, this worry and rumination. And I believe worry and rumination is really best understood as lapses in present moment contact. If you're ruminating, you're not here, you're not now, you're not in your body, When you worry, you actually lose contact with the present moment because you're focusing your attention on some future that you're probably making up, and then you're probably reacting to the things you made up and getting scared, And when you ruminate, it's the same thing, except rumination is about the past. It's on some conceptualized past, So if you think about it this way, worry, rumination, lapse of contact in the present moment, you'll see that you will become less sensitive to what's going on here and now, They also can take you too literally in your past or in the future, Because, in the past, say, someone says something very cruel to you, nothing huge, but if you're thinking about it, it's almost like you're re-experiencing it. And all those feelings that happened then, you're feeling right now, even though you're sitting and there's no threat and there's no one right here, But you're responding to thoughts as if they're reality. The mind will do that. One thing you can do is when you're having a thought like, oh boy, that bully really got to me, really made fun of me, really humiliated me. Well, I'm having the thought that a bully humiliated me. Same information, but when I say, oh, that bully humiliated me, that's a lot of anxiety. But if I say the thought, I'm having a thought of the bully, well, same thought, but I'm not activated. You kind of reframe it a little bit. When you feel anxious, a lot of times you're not sure what the threat is. You might make something up, but a lot of times you don't know, yet you'll still act to protect yourself, Those times when you know you get anxious, a good thing to do is to slow down and actually see what's really happening. Slowing down is one of the best things you can do for your blood pressure, for your relationship. but also it just brings you in the present moment, and you can attune to what's happening. Also, what's happening with you, you know? So, I remember once I had to go to a big fancy thing, and a bunch of big fancy people were going to be there, and I had to sit there and eat dinner with them, and I was pretty nervous. And I was thinking, like, boy, if I go there, what if I say something very stupid? And I started thinking how that would feel, and I got very, very anxious. Well, for me anyway. And then I went to this thing, I sat at the table, and I said something pretty stupid. I did. And I was mortified, and I felt, oh, geez, whatever. I got to tell you, like 3 hours later, I forgot about it. I could tell you which was more anxiety-inducing. Thinking about it. The thinking about it, without it happening, was much more anxiety-inducing than it actually happening. Oh, if you slow down, and you'll see, oh, this is how it feels I'm thinking about the thing. Oof, that thing just happened. This is how it feels. You'll see it's much different, you know, and you can kind of just, you know, slow down. You know, you can step by step, right? If, say, you're going on a date, you'll notice these things step by step. Now there's this urge to flee, maybe, right? But that kind of goes away. Maybe there's a knot in your stomach. Oh, here it comes. But then notice that goes away. Now here's some sweat. That's okay, you know. And you can just kind of focus on the body. This is good because if you're focused on them, what they're doing, if you're in your head, you're not going to be attuned, and you're going to be a lot less personable because you won't be present. Once you're focused on your body, it's not so, because anxiety is impossible to feel in the present moment. Anxiety is always about the future. Now, if something right now is happening that's a threat, you won't feel anxiety, you'll feel fear. That's a very physiological response, you know. But you know, just notice yourself going on this date, right? You notice you have anxiety, right? And you're still kind of poised for something terrible to happen, you know. But when you move at a slow and deliberate pace, the sensations that you used to find intolerable, you realize you can tolerate now. They're still there. Notice the whole day you still had the anxiety. You didn't get rid of the anxiety. But when you really paid attention, you saw how temporary it was. There's the knot, but then it went away. And you proved to yourself you can tolerate it, you know. It's when we're rushing. Why? Well, the moment we feel uncomfortable, mentally we just have this urge to get away. I have to stop the anxiety. I have to get calm. I shouldn't feel anxious, whatever that means. This is wrong. This is bad. That creates the sense of urgency that will actually set your mind going. But if you feel the anxiety and there's no urgency, just anxiety. No big deal. I'm not going to run from it. The brain kind of gets the idea that it's safe and okay to feel it. It's not a threat. And we often think of anxiety as a threat. That makes it worse, you know. And you also might notice when you slow down, particular times that you do get more nervous, particular times where you're very calm. But none of those things you'll be able to notice unless you slow down, you know. And if you have trouble, you know, you could count breaths, you know, deep breaths, anything like that, you know. But to interact, you know, effectively with the world, it's complex. You got work and family. You need to be open. You know, people who are very anxious, they're not in the present moment, they're not open. Well, when you're anxious, it's very difficult to come up with creative solutions. It's very difficult to see solutions. Since you're not attuned, you might very well react differently and off. You might not see things, you know. But you can be with the anxiety and kind of unblend from it and still be present. Most of the time when we're in our head because not because we're feeling anxiety, because we're getting away from the anxiety. If we just stay with the anxiety, felt it, we would still be in the present moment, you know. So it's not just insight though. That's not the only thing. If you continually have these painful experiences, tons of anxiety or rumination, if you slow down, you can ask, what do these experiences teach me about the world and how it works? How do we do it? So I knew someone with an anxious attachment, and she says, boy, I go out, we've done these dates, and I go with the guy, and usually, I don't know, I fall in love so quickly, and we usually hit it off, and da-da-da. Sometimes sleep together first day, second, maybe third. And I kind of reveal everything about myself, and he does too, and it's just so lovely, and I get hooked. Okay. And then she's like, okay, so fix that. I was like, all right, well, it takes a while to get over anxious attachment. So, but what have you learned? Hopefully, from that, you learn that you cannot do those things. If you want less anxiety, you have to feel safer. How do you feel safe? You go slow. Don't sleep with the guy in the first 3 dates. No moral judgment. It would just attach you too much. There'd be that pressure. You don't even know if you like the guy yet. If you go slow and deliberate, there are things you can do. You just found something about the world. I can't do those type of relationships because I just lose my mind, okay? And then you can actually act differently. But you'd have to learn that first, You'd have to learn it. You have to recognize it, And the goal of all the work really is for you to learn to recognize that all these anxious thoughts, these doom and gloom thoughts, they're thoughts. They're thoughts. They're not an event. They're just thoughts. And you can acknowledge them and let them pass. A lot of people, when they think they have a lot of rules, one rule is, if it pops in my head, I have to think about it. If it pops in my head, I have to think about it until I'm 100% clear. And then you're going to go on and on and on. You don't got it. You don't got it. What are we 100% clear on? If you're 80% clear on anything, you're good. You're good, Relationships, anything. Some people, it helps them to view their anxiety as a figure, even as like a wounded child. If you think of like when your anxiety comes up, it's a wounded child in me. Well, hopefully if you imagine it like that, you start treating yourself and say, I hate this anxiety. It ruins me, ruins everything. What if instead you saw it as a small wounded child? And what if you saw it in your partner as well? So when they're going off, it's really just some 8-year-old wounded part of them that's going on and on. It's not them. It's easy to react, but if you keep thinking that way, eventually you don't react. Because you don't even get upset. It's just a little kid going off. And you're like, oh, geez, this poor thing. Clearly you recognize they're feeling insecure. And that's really what it's about. Some people have a thought, listen, I just feel I'm very unlikable and I bore people. So I'm not going to go to the party, Or I think I'm irresponsible and mature. I can never be a good parent. Or I'm lazy and stupid, so I'm not going to try this thing at work. Okay. Well, at this point, people will probably try to talk you out of it. Oh, no, you're very likable. I don't know you. Maybe you are boring. You could very well be unlikable. Not everyone's likable, I don't know if you'd be a good parent. I don't know. I'm lazy. Maybe you are lazy. I don't know. Is that a big deal? I don't know. I know lazy people, and I'm good friends with them. That doesn't bother me. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but maybe you are lazy, And arguing against them rarely helps, because firstly, oftentimes the thoughts are true, But number two, you can't change it anyway. You can't change it, But this is how we usually work. I had thought, whatever, I'm too lazy. Okay. So I took this action. I did not go for the job. Okay. Yeah. Well, that has consequences. So how about this? So instead of that, you said, I had this thought. I'm too lazy, da-da-da. And yeah, I just recognized it's a thought. And I went for the job anyway. Even though I was very anxious, I didn't think I deserved it, and I kept having these thoughts that that I completely screwed up. Which, who knows, I might. Okay, the thoughts remain the same. The anxiety was the same. However, this person now took a shot at a job, and this person, nothing happened. Which would you rather? Which would you rather? I know what you're thinking. Well, I'd rather just not have the thought at all. That's not an option, not right now. And if you have real OCD, real obsession, you'll likely have those thoughts for a long time. They won't go away completely, you know. How you do that, though, is you practice diffusion. That's when you regard the contents of your thoughts for just what they are, just a collection of words that kind of form in the mind, you know. And depending on how useful they are, you may act on them, you may not, you know. But you get to choose, you know. So when you're fused with your thoughts, that's kind of a state in which you take your thoughts literally and you give them authority and consequence. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh, man, my whatever boyfriend's secretly, I don't know, cheating on me. You don't, well, that might bear no significance. That thought just might be a thought, has no authority. We have so many thoughts that we just come and go. Why would you pick that one? Well, the brain, you're dysregulated, and the brain is picking something to kind of latch on to kind of explain the nervous system reaction of your insecurity. You know, if you're fused to a thought, it always comes with a sense of urgency. You know, something must be done. It's not like, oh, my partner might be cheating. Oof, well, let me think about that. No, it's like, I need to figure this out now. And your opportunities of action get smaller, and your capacity to think kind of gets diminished in general, you know? And people think, I'm having this thought about my girlfriend cheating. Let me figure out if that's true. So let me think about it. Oh, and just obsessively think about it. I would suggest that's not what's happening. Not if these are these type of thoughts that have the sense of urgency. I would suggest that you are feeling insecure at that moment. And the mind just picks something that you care about. So you feel insecure. I don't know why. Maybe it's something your partner said. Maybe there's a rocky day at work, but you're feeling insecure. Your body has a reaction. Ooh, insecurity. It tightens up, you know, fight or flight or whatever. And your mind gives emotions at this point to explain it. Oh, now I feel anxiety, whatever. And then you got to get a story. What story would make sense of this? Well, you're looking around. There's no threat. So it has to be something big and important. And you'll pick whatever's important to you. Believe me, no one has like OCD or rumination. It's like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking how wonderful I am. Just day in, day out, I keep having this thought of how great I am. Just all my accomplishments, all my positive virtues, over. It's terrible. Nobody has that. Ever. It's always something bad, you know. Well, if that's true, then explore for yourself. But if it's true, then when you are having these ruminations, you don't go to the thing you're thinking about. Oh, girlfriend cheating. Let me check her phone and go on Reddit. The experts will know what to do. No. You go back to your body. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? I'm feeling insecure. If you're feeling insecure, what do you do? Well, you call a friend. You make a phone call, text someone, ask for a hug. I remember, years ago, being busy in a room, leaving some kids alone just for like 20 minutes, and then coming in the room, and I'd see a 3-year-old naked standing on the table, covered in chocolate, like throwing Legos, you know, and I'd go over and I'd be like, little one, do you need a hug? And she'd be like, yes. And I'd hug her, and I'd put her on the ground. And what do we do if we need a hug? Ask for a hug. That's a great idea. And do we stand on things naked and throw? No, we don't do that. That's not what we do. It works for little kids, and it works for adults. Getting a hug. And there's been interesting studies where a couple did nothing except increase their hugs every day. That's the only commitment they made. That's it. And that alone raised the quality of their relationship significantly. So, instead of couples therapy, instead of this, instead of that, really, if you just read like the 10 basic things that you do daily, for instance, when you embrace and you kiss every time you leave the house, but pause. Hold them for 5 seconds longer than you usually do. Every time they come back, I don't know, it does that. Every time you fall asleep, things like that, And just so you know, there are studies, 7 guys, fellas, avoidant fellas, 7 strokes on a woman calms down her nervous system. 7. And I've told that to guys, and they've literally like come behind their wife and just literally counted it out. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I gave my affection for the day. I'm out. Whatever works, But just that touch. Usually what we do, though, is we feel insecure, and we go off in this obsession, and then we're reading and thinking and doing a million other things, So if that's true, then the contents don't matter. We don't care. The contents of the thoughts don't matter, whether they're accurate or not. Instead, you want to know, these thoughts, do they really have something going on now? And are they workable in my life? My girlfriend's cheating. Okay, well, what can I do about it? I can ask, I can check 1 or 2 things. That's all I can do. Well, then I'm done. Any further thinking about this, there's nothing I can do, The point is to get enough space between you and your thoughts so you don't automatically react to them, Whenever I'm with someone, in general, I have an intention, and my intention for every session is that their mind entertain only what has value and meaning. Only what has value and meaning. What is that? Value, meaning, whatever's replenishing, exercise, play. Something that leads to something that's possible to do. Not, it's terrible, my girl broke up with me 10 years ago. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. That thought simply makes you sad. Doesn't give you more information, doesn't make you deeper. No. That thought, there's nothing you can do about that. It's not possible to do. So the thought has to be possible to do. It has to be good to have done, right? And if you decide on that, you kind of look to attach appeal and interest to those things, and pleasure and satisfaction having done them, And that's kind of like the goal, for the mind to see solutions, to see what to do next is both possible to do and good to have done, Now when I say diffusion, some people think, you argue with your thoughts. My girlfriend's cheating. No, my girlfriend's not cheating. What a crazy thing. I know that's not true. Okay. But once you start arguing, you already get sucked in. You get sucked in, you're automatically in it. Just like a bully. You see a bully, you don't argue with them, And again, it's about slowing down, because if you're tearing through life as fast as you go, with your sights on something in the future, that's where anxious people live, then your thoughts of the moment won't exercise much control over your actions right here and now. Because these actions you take will almost be like in response to what you're projecting in the future. You're projecting she is going to leave you. In the present, no such thing exists, but you might act as if it's happening. Really get upset, start yelling even, starting a fight. What are you reacting to? You're reacting to an imaginary future. Maybe she is cheating, I don't know. But since you don't know it, this is just imaginary, Slowing down just a little, you can start to see when you're acting automatically on some thought you had, And there's different ways to do this. I'll go into next time specific some exercises you can do to kind of control some of these thoughts. But if you have any questions, just let me know. My name's Jonathan McCormack, and I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.